Stories Philippines Podcast.
A darkness permeates this episode, touching on scenes and themes some may find deeply unsettling. The contents discussed within demand your careful consideration. Listener discretion is a necessity. I am Paul, and you're listening to Stories Philippines Podcast. The sea is a promise and a grave. It is the infinite canvas upon which all Filipino life is painted. Yet it hides a terror older than the Spanish galleons, a hunger deeper than the Marianas Trench. For a nation woven from over 7,000 islands, the water is not merely a boundary. It is the relentless, shifting floor of reality. We build our homes on its edge, we harvest its bounty, and we speak its name in prayer. But when the sky turns a bruised neck, and the air itself seems to thicken with the premonition of violence, we remember the other truth. The sea takes, it does not bargain. Imagine a fishing village wrapped in the salt and diesel scent of a livelihood perpetually held in the balance. The boats are moored, their eyes painted on the prow to ward off the deep's malevolent gaze, but the people look to the horizon with a dread that has nothing to do with the wind speed. They have seen the data, the typhoon warnings, the swirling satellite images that make the weather look like a cruel cosmic joke. But the fear that chills them to the bone is not the predictable wind shear of a natural disaster. It is a haunting that arrives on a sound wave, the low, echoing, world-ending blast of a ship's horn where no ship should be. The elders whisper of a vessel that rides the wrath of the storm, a golden ship built not of wood and steel, but of pure ethereal gold. Its sails are tattered with the winds of ages, its deck crowded not with sailors, but with the pale, silent dead. When you hear the horn in the dead of night, they say, it is not a warning of the approaching tempest, it is a herald. It is the call to an unscheduled voyage, and someone somewhere in the surrounding darkness has just signed their own ghostly manifest. The storm is merely the chaperone for a terror that has come to collect its fare. This deep-seated terror, the certainty that the sea is perpetually holding a door open for the dead, is the true heart of our story. It is a story of nature's horror, yes, but also of the profound collective trauma that binds an archipelago to its most ancient and merciless killer. We will speak of the ghost ships that sail invisible waters, the phantom cities that beckon from the deepest dark, and the chilling truth that when the typhoon strikes, it is not only the living who take shelter. Sometimes, the ghosts come home. The sea has always been the keeper of secrets, and in the Philippines, those secrets are often dyed with the crimson of forgotten violence. The archipelagic nature of the nation, constantly exposed to the Pacific's unpredictable temperament, means that maritime tragedy is not an occasional event. It is a chronic generational wound. Every family, it seems, has a story of a great uncle who sailed out and never returned, or a childhood friend lost to a sudden savage squall. This constant, pervasive exposure to the ocean's lethality has naturally bred a mythology to cope with the sheer randomness of the slaughter. Across the world, the concept of the ghost ship exists in every seafaring culture. The Dutch have their Flying Dutchman, eternally condemned to sail without port, a warning of doom. The Scots have the Kalush, a luminous ship of myth that gathers the dead and the drowned. But in the Philippines, the tales have a local, visceral intensity, intertwined with the landscape and the very air. One of the most terrifying iterations comes from the Samar region, an island group constantly battered by storms, where the tales of a phantom city are as real as the next rising tide. The city is called Biringan, often described as a magnificent, impossibly advanced metropolis of gold and crystal, hidden from the waking world by a shimmering, eternal twilight. It is a city of the encanto, the benevolent or malevolent nature spirits of Filipino folklore. But the connection to the sea is unmistakable. Legend speaks of a golden ship, sometimes called the Golden Bark, that sails out of Bimingan's non-existent port. When it is seen, or more chillingly, when its deep, sonorous horn is heard, it is understood to be the ferry for the recently dead or those about to be taken. For those living near the coast, this sound is a prelude to loss. One woman, a young resident in the Visayas whom we will call Fernil, shared a story of the spectral horn. Her family moved to a coastal community in Cebu where the local history was murky, involving dried up riverbeds and whispers of a forgotten sea tragedy. Fernil began to hear the sound of a ship docking or departing, a massive, deep sound, yet she knew there was no commercial port nearby. The noise became a chilling soundtrack to her new life. What made it truly terrifying was its pattern. She noticed the sound only came during moments of sudden, violent death in the community, often during periods of social turmoil and upheaval. A death from natural causes or old age would pass in silence, but a sudden, bloody end, a violent taking of life, would be heralded by the ship's horn. It was as if the vessel was only interested in those whose lives were cut short, the souls who had unfinished business, the ones who went missing too soon. Her high school advisor surprisingly validated the fear, mentioning an old myth that their area was once a river, perhaps the grave of a sunken ship, and that the horn was merely an echo of the past, a sound to be ignored. But how can you ignore the sound that announces a violent death? The tragedy of the sea is that it is the most efficient eraser of evidence. Unlike a death on land, a sinking at sea is a total obliteration, leaving no bodies, no debris, and no answers. This vacuum is where the ghost ships thrive. The tales are rooted in historical, devastating shipwrecks, a relentless cycle of peacetime disasters and wartime destruction. The deep trauma of these disasters extends far beyond the Philippines, finding a disturbing kinship with international tragedies. Consider the sinking of the Sultana on the Mississippi River in the 1860s, or the infamous General Slocum disaster in New York at the turn of the century. In both cases, the sheer scale of the preventable loss of life created an emotional void, an indelible scar on the collective psyche. In the Philippines, this scar is refreshed every few years by a new calamity. The sinking of the MV Doña Paz in the 1987 remains the deadliest peacetime maritime disaster in history, a terrifying collision that killed an estimated over 4,000 people. The numbers are staggering, overwhelming, and they point to the impossibility of a clean ending. Thousands of bodies were never recovered. Their souls, in the cultural imagination, are not simply at peace, but are still out there, passengers on an eternal crossing. This emotional and historical context gives rise to the idea of the killer ship, a vessel carrying an ancient curse, or perhaps a living, malevolent consciousness. There are accounts from modern seafarers, men who navigate the endless, empty dark of the open ocean, that speak of such terror. One seafarer recounted the story of a company ship that became a kind of modern Flying Dutchman. It was a large, ordinary vessel until a sudden, violent feud broke out between the chef and the captain, culminating in the disappearance of the chef, declared man overboard. The very next week, the chief engineer was found dead in the engine room, apparently having fallen 5 stories, though forensic evidence suggested a blow to the head before the plunge. The killings seemed to escalate, and a vessel manager sent to investigate the matter was himself stabbed to death the very night he boarded. The common factor was not an identifiable killer, but the ship itself now tainted a vessel of escalating death. The crew was too terrified to speak. Authorities could find no evidence the ship, according to the last reports, was still sailing, still in service, though rumors suggested it would soon be scrapped. How does a company scrap a vessel that is not merely haunted but cursed to take life? Is it the iron of the hull, the wood of the decking, or the sheer weight of the sudden, unexplained bloody violence that clings to it like barnacles? The concept of a localized, active haunting at sea is further emphasized by the tales of ghost lights that flicker across the open water, often near known disaster zones. These are the maritime equivalent of the will-o'-the-wisps, or ignis fatuus, seen in swamps and moors across Europe, believed to be the lanterns of malevolent spirits leading travelers to their doom. In the vast, featureless dark of the ocean, any light that does not belong is a source of intense unease. A young third officer, whom we will call Jake, shared his unsettling watch duty experience while sailing near the English Channel. It was 11 o'clock at night, and his watchman, an older, seasoned seaman, suddenly reported a massive cluster of lights directly ahead. The radar was silent. Visually, Jake saw nothing but the deep, inky blackness. The watchman, however, became increasingly frantic, insisting that the lights belonged to hundreds of small candlelit boats filled with people. He pleaded with the officer to change course, terrified that they were running down the small crafts. Jake held fast, trusting the silent radar, and felt nothing. But the watchman's pale face, his genuine terror, was a silent contradiction. The next morning, the watchman revealed the gruesome details seen only by his eyes. Pale, black-faced people in the small boats, staring up at the vessel as it passed through them as others were struck. Later, Jake conducted his own research, discovering that the area was the site of a long-ago passenger vessel disaster where many drowned and their bodies were never recovered. He found a strange note in an old nautical almanac: "Ghost at sea, navigate with caution, for you are not alone in this vast sea." The ghost lights and phantom flotillas were the visible, flickering reminders of the drowned, still waiting for passage, still perhaps asking for help. This links the seafarer's terror directly to the deep Filipino folklore surrounding the lost souls of the sea. They are not merely ghosts of the recent dead. They are the permanently unretrieved, their bodies held in the crushing cold of the deep, their spirits bound to the last place they saw the sky. One paranormal investigator, whom we will call Raptors, visited a haunted fishing area where fishermen refused to cast their nets. They reported hearing cries for help from the middle of the deep and occasionally seeing a woman walking on the water's surface. Raptors and his team sailed out at 1 o'clock in the morning. The moonlight was bright, the sea unnervingly calm. Soon, the mournful sounds began, a chorus of weeping and calls for assistance. As Raptors looked into the water, a face seemed to emerge from the black surface, silently pleading. All the spectral figures, all the weeping voices seemed to be pointing to the same place, the crushing depths below. Their investigation later confirmed that a ship had sunk there in the 1960s, carrying many passengers. The wreck was too deep, the bodies too long gone for any proper recovery. The souls therefore remained, perpetually seeking succor, their unfinished business an anchor binding them to the cold, dark grave of the ocean floor. Their plea was not for rescue, but for remembrance, for the prayers that would finally allow them passage. The immense scale of this trauma has shaped a spiritual landscape where the dead remain an active, ever-present force. In this world, the Isla del Fuego, better known as Siquijor, the island of fireflies and mystics, stands as a guardian of this fragile balance. Its name, given by the Spanish because of the dazzling swarms of fireflies that once illuminated the island, hints at a natural, flickering magic. But in the Filipino imagination, Siquijor is far more than that. It is the home of the healers and the hexers. It is a place where the boundaries between the natural, the historical, and the spiritual dissolve completely, blurring into one haunting, luminous whole. Local legend on Siquijor ties its magic directly to the sea and the ghost ship mythos. They speak of Marianico, a local encanto who is a benevolent protector of the island. He is said to have driven out the foreign invaders and is often the subject of strange, unverified reports of supernatural purchases. Could he be the mysterious force that guides the spectral golden ship? The legend of the ghost ship on Siquijor is often linked not just to Marianico, but to a recurring tale, a very expensive, very large, and very urgent purchase of goods, with the address often signed off to a mysterious entity or simply Biringan City. It is a chilling confirmation that the phantom world is not merely a passenger on our reality, but an active consumer. The connection of Biringan to a parallel, invisible realm of immense wealth and power is a consistent thread in the folk accounts, often tied to sudden disappearances. The city is said to be beautiful, advanced, a true paradise, but its inhabitants are pale, ethereal beings, and the one telltale sign of those who have seen it or come from it is the absence of a visible philtrum, the vertical groove between the base of the nose and the border of the upper lip. This is where the fear becomes deeply personal, an internal dread that can be felt even in the most mundane, waking moments. In one terrifying account, an elderly man who had moved to the United States returned to his home province of Samar in 2010. He spoke of seeing a massive mall in the city of Calbayog, complete with a familiar SM logo and being offered rides by a plethora of taxis, an impossible sight in a city still reliant on local tricycles. His relatives were terrified. They had no mall, no taxis. He was seeing the mirrored, beautiful reality of Biringan City, and he was being lured in. Others speak of the Biringan City bus. A young woman waiting for a ride home was approached by a beautiful white-clad woman who invited her to board a large, magnificent bus that had materialized in total silence. Once inside, she realized with a rising panic that every passenger was silent, their faces unsettlingly calm, and most unnervingly, none of them had the small telltale indentation beneath their nose. She was quite literally being taken for a ride, a journey to a city from which there is no return. She was only saved by a sudden, intense thought of her family, a desperate anchor to the world of the living. She stepped off the bus, found herself instantly at her own front door, and only then realized she had been missing for 3 days. The stories of Biringan and the ghost ships that sails to it are a cultural coping mechanism for collective trauma, a way to process the sheer number of the missing, the sudden disappearances that seem to defy logic. The city is the ultimate supernatural explanation for the phenomenon of the lost. If a loved one is not on the map, if they have simply vanished without a trace, then perhaps they have not merely died. Perhaps they were chosen. Perhaps they are living a gilded, silent life in a city of perpetual night. The spiritual implications of these stories are significant. For a deeply religious nation, the concept of a parallel, alluring, yet non-Christian reality is a profound challenge. Biringan is often portrayed as a kind of reverse paradise, a false heaven run by Encanto. It provides all the material beauty and peace that this world lacks, but at the cost of one's soul, one's faith, and one's permanent separation from one's earthly family. The only known defense against the beautiful, silent seduction of Biringan is a profound and active faith, a conscious attachment to the living world and the established spiritual order. This is the psychological heart of the matter. The sea, the typhoons, the social and political violence that have plagued the islands for centuries create a constant feeling of existential fragility. Biringan and the golden ship become a potent symbol for the irresistible temptation of giving up, of surrendering to the void, of simply allowing oneself to be taken away from the pain and chaos of the real world. The ghost ship's horn is not just the sound of a ship arriving, it is the sound of an escape route opening, a silent invitation to the traumatized and the desperate to board a vessel of eternal rest. The haunting is, therefore, a reflection of a deeper anxiety, a collective shadow that hangs over the entire archipelago. It is a terrifying truth that the most powerful horror is not the one that comes from a foreign invader or a political crisis. It is the one that has always been here, waiting in the deep, riding the strongest winds, the one that asks only for a single silent passenger to complete its manifest. It is here that we invite you to be part of the ongoing narrative. Do you have a story of a sound that chilled you to the bone? A vision of lights that defied explanation, or a strange loss at sea that left you with only questions? Submit your stories to our email, storiesphpodcast@gmail.com. The sea is vast and its stories are infinite. Find show notes and support options in the description to help us continue to bring these chilling narratives to light. You can also access exclusive content on Patreon and follow us on social media for daily folklore facts. The deep does not distinguish between a casual loss and a historical tragedy. Every soul that slips beneath the surface joins the ranks of the mariners and passengers who will forever sail the invisible sea. The terrifying question that remains is not whether the ghost ship exists, but whether the line between the world of the living and the phantom port of Biringan is thinning. Is the relentless cycle of disaster and upheaval making us more susceptible to the silent golden lure of a world without pain, a world that is nothing more than a beautiful, echoing emptiness? Listen closely tonight when the wind howls and the rain begins to fall, not to the sound of the coming storm, but to the deep, unmistakable horn that cuts through the dark. What is that sound truly announcing? Is it the arrival of a storm? Or is it the departure of a soul? Do not look at the water when the ship's horn blows, for what you see may be what you become. Thank you for tuning in and listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, follow, and share the podcast with friends, family, and anyone who might benefit from the conversation. Your likes and follows help others discover the show. Listeners, if you'd like to help keep Stories Philippines podcast alive and thriving, we've made it easy. Check the show notes for a variety of ways to contribute. Whether you prefer a one-time donation to show your appreciation for a single episode, a monthly membership that gives you behind-the-scenes access and exclusive content, or a tip to help cover this week's production costs, every contribution matters. Your support directly helps pay for editing, hosting, research, archival access, and the small but important fees we pay to our guests and experts so they can share their knowledge and stories with you. If you join as a member, you'll get perks like early access to episodes, extended cuts, bonus interviews, and members-only Q&A sessions where I answer your questions about folklore, history, and the darker corners of our shared past. We're also rolling out occasional live events and special mini-series for supporters, and membership revenue helps make those possible. Not able to give money right now? That's okay. There are other ways to help that cost nothing but a minute of your time. Leaving a review or rating on your favorite podcast platform makes a huge difference. It helps new listeners find the show, improves our visibility, and tells platforms we're making content people want. Sharing an episode with a friend, posting about an episode on social media, or sending us your own story for a future episode are all powerful ways to keep the conversation going. Your contributions, big or small, directly impact our ability to produce thoughtful, well-researched stories from across the Philippines. They let us pay researchers, maintain quality audio production, secure historical sources, and bring on local voices and storytellers. Most importantly, your support keeps this community alive. A place where listeners can discover, learn, and share the strange and remarkable stories that belong to our islands. This episode marks the end of Season 2, and as always, finishing a season brings both reflection and plans for what's next. If you've enjoyed the episodes so far, consider supporting us as we prepare for Season 3. Your support will help fund new investigations, travel to interviewees, and extra care in preserving the voices and histories we feature. Check the show notes for links to one-time donations, membership options, and exclusive content tiers. Every contribution, whether financial or a simple rating, helps ensure we can continue producing the stories you love. Thank you, listeners, for being part of this journey. If you can, please visit the show notes now to see how you can support Stories Philippines podcast, because together, we keep these stories alive. Have topic suggestions, feedback, or guest recommendations? Send us a message through the contact link in the show notes or tag us on social media. We read your messages and often use them to shape future episodes. Join our community between episodes by following us on social media for bonus clips, behind-the-scenes content, and updates. You can also sign up for the newsletter to get episode highlights, resource links, and occasional deep dives delivered straight to your inbox. Listeners, your time, your attention, your willingness to drift with us through strange waters, it has meant everything. I want to take a moment to speak plainly from the heart. Thank you for every minute you spent listening, for every message you sent, for every story you trusted us with. Together we followed whispering winds across mangrove rivers. We peered into lamplit barangays. We chased the footprints of old legends. We stood at the prow of history and watched the fog swallow familiar shores. That shared journey has changed me, and I hope has changed you. I need to share something with you now. A change, honest and necessary. I, Paul, will be stepping away from hosting new episodes for a while. This is not goodbye, not forever. I'm taking a break to rest, to do quieter work behind the scenes, to keep researching, to dig deeper into the histories and mysteries that feed the show. The hunt for stories doesn't stop, it's only shifting gears. And I'll still be here in the background, following leads, reading old accounts, tracing the echoes of folklore, and preparing for the moment I can return to the microphone with fresh fire. While I'm away from the helm, I couldn't feel safer leaving the podcast in the hands of someone I trust completely. Jessica will be taking over hosting duties. She brings a patient curiosity and a steady voice, and she cares about these stories, about the people behind them, as much as I do. Please welcome her, listen closely to how she guides you, and support her as she does what we do best: honor the strange and make it human again. This is bittersweet for me. When I started this podcast, I wanted to create a place where stories could breathe, where old warnings and small miracles could be heard like the creak of a wooden hall in the dark. Meeting you, hearing your letters, your late night calls, your whispered confessions, that has been the greatest honor. I will miss the immediate rhythm of hosting, the live exchange, the way a shiver passes between narrator and listener on a quiet night. But rest is part of the craft. Even the most weathered mariners come ashore to mend sails, and I need to do that now. I ask one favor. Keep supporting Jessica, keep supporting the team at Hustle Studios. If you enjoy the episodes, please follow wherever you listen, share the show with a friend who likes a good chill down their spine, and check the show notes for ways to support us financially. Your support keeps lights on, it pays for research trips, it helps us record with better sound, and it keeps the doors open so these stories reach more ears. To all of you who've sent memories and warnings and old family tales, thank you. Please keep sending them. Send them to Jessica, to me, behind the scenes, to Hustle Studios. We will read them, we will honor them, and we will tell them with care. Looking back, I'm struck by how many of our tales were about passage, of people, of places, of the lingering dead, and how often they brought us to the water. Ghost ships, unlit lanterns bobbing off lonely capes, fishermen who return with wet clothes and no memory of how they crossed, boats that appear in the mouth of a river only to vanish by dawn. These are the images that have stayed with me. They are also maps, guides that point towards something older, a way communities have explained loss and danger, and a warning about what happens when we ignore the old names. I'll keep working on those maps, on the research, on chasing the quieter leads that need time and patience. I'll be here, listening, reading, following each thread. I will come back. The sea calls me back, and so does this work. For now, I pass the lantern to Jessica, and I ask you, listeners, to be patient, to be kind, to keep your stories coming. Before I go, a last thought, a small question to sit with, one that has chased me through the nights we recorded. What does it mean when a ship with no crew appears off our shores? When lanterns glow where no fisherman should be? When the sea returns what was lost but not whole? Is it a warning, an answer, or something else? Something older than our names for it? Take care of yourselves and each other, be curious as always, and remember, there are places between tides where voices gather, waiting to be heard. I'm Paul, and I'll see you again. Until then, welcome Jessica, and please support the show, support the team at Hustle Studios, and send us the stories that keep us searching. Here's a last, quieter question to leave you with. When a boat appears out of the fog, pale and empty, who or what is steering it home? Bye for now. For the last time, let me tell this. I am Paul, and you are listening to Stories Philippines podcast.